culture. It is the backbone of digital transformation. It is crucial to get the digital culture seeded and nurtured to achieve an innovation durability. Join me here to navigate how to drive a successful culture change within your organization. Let's zoom in a little bit and try to understand what is a culture. Culture is the collective programming of a mind, meaning it is the set of norms of conduct that guide the behavior of the people within an enterprise. My name is Sharif Abdel Gawad, and I'll be happy to go through four main topics throughout this video. First, we're going to go through the culture depth, the different elements of the culture, as well as the impact on the business. Next, we're going to explore the different types of a culture or the culture evolution. Next, we're going to highlight the cultural intelligence with three main elements: IQ, EQ, and RQ. And we're going to end up this video with how to hack your culture. Let's go through them. Explain and try to understand the depth of a culture, I like to use two models here. The first one by Simon Sinek, the Golden Circle. The other one by Edgar Schein, describing the culture model and the layers of a culture. Culture is like an iceberg. Some of it is visible, some invisible, and some in between, which is a semi-visible. The visible part is the results of a culture. In Simon Sinek, it is the what. In Edgar model, it is the visible artifacts. Examples could be the buildings, the logo, the dress code, how employees talk to each other, products and services. The less visible part is in the middle, which is the how in Simon Sinek model, or in Edgar model is the espoused values. It's usually the organization stated value, principle, and norms, as well as the mechanisms and rules under which the organization operates. The deepest part of the culture, which is invisible or unconscious, is the why in Simon Sinek model, or the basic assumption layer in Edgar's model. It is what the company and the group believe in. It is their beliefs that is firmly rooted in the group, and it is the core of the organization. It's usually hard to change, and it is the real power of a culture. A sustainable culture is based on a group of people who share common beliefs. Our beliefs form our filters that consist of three main things: how we perceive, how we think, and how we feel about any problem that we are facing. Our beliefs is influenced and shaped through experiences. Our beliefs inform and shape our values. Our values drive our habits or behaviors. Our behaviors drive and influence our actions. Such an action drives the outcome or result of the task that we are doing. Culture is difficult to identify and harder to alter. Let's go through the common culture types in the following section. I usually categorize the evolution or the maturity of a culture into three buckets. The first bucket is the blame culture. This is the culture of lack of trust and fear. There is no innovation happens in this culture because the people are afraid too much from being blamed for anything. Hence, they take a step back and wait, and would rather wait for the boss to tell them what to do. Common patterns in this culture will be the following. You'll see them focusing on who's wrong versus what is wrong. The person versus the process. Spending a lot of time finding fault things or faulty things that didn't happen versus fact findings or data driven findings for learning experience or an opportunity to learn from that failure. The focus on the past versus the focus on the future. The second bucket is the mediocrity culture. This is the culture of silent cohesion between departments as well as live and let live culture. Most of the enterprises fall into this category. They aim for the mediocre because they do not believe in their ability to achieve big things. They think the status quo is good enough. They see what prevents them to reach what they want rather than focusing on way around to get what they want. They avoid confrontation and insist on social cohesion instead of balancing the social cohesion with facts and data-driven mechanisms. They settle and pick the least resistant path rather than insisting on the highest quality and the right things to do. You usually observe a lot of politics in this culture, and for sure, innovation does not happen. The last bucket, the most mature and advanced one, is the innovation culture. This is a leadership enrichment culture where you develop and cultivate leaders. This is the foundational culture for the digital era. It is the sought after transformation that everybody's trying to be. It starts with the leaders signing off their egos at the door. Leaders establish the psychological safety environment where people are not afraid to experiment and fail, learn from their failures, and advance. This is the culture where everybody has a sense of value and sense of possibilities for their careers. People belong to the organization, to the community, to their department, to their team. People believe in the mission, the vision, and the brand that they work for. They are excited about it and they tell everybody how good this environment, how good is the product. They are personally invested in the brand, in the organization, and to their team. They are part of the bigger purpose. They are eager to innovate and they are eager to make things better. They have high sense of ownership and responsibility. They don't need somebody to tell them what to do. This is the utmost matured environment that continuous improvements and continuous innovations happens naturally. Now we went through the key cultural types. One of the key topics I would like to discuss next is the cultural intelligence. The digital culture is important to address the changing customer expectation, the uncertainty in the market. This requires a culture intelligence. A cultural intelligence is the capability to navigate, relate to, and work effectively across cultures with a sustainable outcome. Corporate culture encompasses three main things: an IQ, an emotion intelligence, the EQ, as well as the new emerging in the digital world, the robotic intelligence or IQ. An IQ drives your ability to execute transformation in the most efficient and effective ways possible. It provides a solution within your transformation journey. An EQ drives your team ability to recognize one's own emotions and other to guide behavior, to adapt to environments or achieve one's goals. It provides the right support throughout the transformation. The last part, which is the new in the digital world, is the robotic or the IQ drives your team's ability as individual or as a team or group to learn from, adapt to, collaborate with, trust, and generate business results from automated entities. It's usually done through integration and adaptation of technologies to facilitate the outcomes for your business initiatives. It provides simplification throughout your transformation journey. In the next sections, let's dive into how you change your culture, how to hack your culture. Let's dive in. Culture change is an evolution, a journey. Corporate cultures are like a systems. While hacking can obviously used for wrongdoing, it can also be used as a great model for innovation, growth, and success. Corporate can hack their systems or their cultures. Some customers usually ask me what is the best practices to change or transform our culture. Your own journey of change will be unique. Hence, the question about best practices might not be the right question. Best practice imply it is the best. Hence, there is no better way of doing that. If you really embarked on a digital transformation and you really want to sustain a change, you need to give up the statement of best practices as its limiting belief. Our minds are programmed through the power of words. Words matter. For example, switching the word best to leading. Leading practice allows you to do two things. One, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. The second thing, you improve. Successful hacking of a corporate culture is a long-term undertaking. So now that we recognize that we do not need to limit ourselves with the best practices and using the right words to influence their beliefs, let me walk you through a framework to guide your transformation. People less resistance once they believe in something and understand why. Hence, you start with defining a clear why where you communicate effectively to your team. This will help to establish the purpose where everybody starts coming along the journey and you impact or influence their beliefs. It's also helpful to establish a guiding principles and tenets that guides your team throughout the process. It's important to have the right leadership to drive and establish a psychological safety environment. This will unleash the innovation part within your teams. Let's double click into the imagination and innovation and creativity part. Innovation is a function of imagination. Imagination is situated between the understanding and the perception. Perception is how we make sense of things around us, how we interpret our world, or simply the lens of which we view reality. We form our perception through our frame of reference, or what is familiar to us. Usually these are created through our filters. These filters are influenced by our experience, education, background, culture, and environment. Frame of reference is different from one to another. Perception occurs in a decoding components of the basic communication model. It can be passive or active. Passive, it's when your senses are operating normally and you're perceiving things without conscious. Active is usually driven by your motivation to learn or explore something new. You seek out specific information through conscious observation and questioning. So the key here to have a continuous learning and a curiosity to influence your understanding or have the right perception. The next step of the culture hacking framework is how to move the needle in a baby step fashion while enhancing the team collaboration as well as effective communication. To achieve the desired culture change, you need to bring everyone along. Ensure that you have an open culture, improve collaboration. This requires empathy, high communication skills with an active listening and emotional intelligence. The diversity and inclusions are key enablers. Innovation happens when you bring different point of views to the table in a safe environment where the level of trust is high. Once done right, the team will reach a consultative decision making where everyone gives up the idea of ownership of the idea. Also, giving or taking offense will disappear. More importantly, whether a consensus happens or in a majority votes for one specific action, the team will reach the desired unified action, where some may disagree, yet everybody is committed to go in one direction. People like to be heard, to be included, and to contribute. Few mechanisms or method that will help in enhancing collaboration and avoid failures. Johari window. It helps to identify and mitigate blind spots. You simply ask to gain knowledge of your blind spot and tell story to get others to identify and see their blind spots. The second mechanism, I call it Mr. TED. Tell me, explain, describe. This forces me to stay silent and ask questions to better understand the other point of view. Simply repeating, tell me about this, explain how this impacts you, or describe, and you rotate with tell me, explain, describe. It forces you to listen actively and have a conversation with the other person. One of the key failures here is failing to negotiate between team members or between teams. A mechanism that you can train yourself and others is to have an outward focused negotiation skills. Basically, having a third party to be the focus of the discussion or present in the discussion will remove the tension of defending my point of view versus you, or my idea versus your idea, or my agenda versus your agenda. To summarize, progressively identify an area that you can enhance and improve within your culture. Take a baby steps, communicate effectively, listen actively, and collaborate. The next step in the framework is to have a bias for action. Proactively act on an idea, proactively design and measure the outcome, analyze the outcome, and adapt as you go. The key here is to realize that good intention does not work. Having a great idea but fail to start or act upon that idea makes it dissolve and goes away. To summarize, a culture is the why, what, and how we do things. So the mechanisms to change a culture is by hacking your culture and influence the beliefs, not only by defining or redefining your corporate values. This is how you drive and sustain a real change within your organization. Good luck with your culture change or culture transformation, and thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.